It's the kind of thing that makes it hard to be optimistic about the future. We thought that today we would be doing an episode about celebrating a big win for our movement. Instead, we're going to need to talk about wanton slaughter and depravity, the kidnapping in Venezuela, and the murder of a mother in Minneapolis. It's the kind of thing that makes it really hard to believe that a better world is possible, that a better America is possible. But that's exactly why it's so critical that we maintain that belief, because our enemies thrive in nihilism. So we're going to talk about this bloody and upsetting week, but we are also going to talk about hope, the democratic socialist alternative that is taking root in New York City and hopefully soon across the country and the globe. I'm joined as always by my good friend and comrade, Matt Leck. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, David. Good to be with you.
I'm happy you're here, and I can't imagine a better guest to cover this wild week in the U.S. than Ryan Grim. So should we get into it, Matt?
Let's do it.
I'm really thrilled to be able to introduce this guest to all of y'all. I'm sure you know him. Ryan Grim. Where is he not? Ryan Grim is at Dropsite News. He's the author of We've Got People and The Squad. He's also one of the co-hosts at Breaking Points. Ryan, really thank you so much for taking the time to join us here at Jacobin.
No, delighted to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, I mean, look, you're kind of the perfect person to have. We have a newsman to talk about all the news that's happened this week. It was not a sleepy return to work at all. In fact, it's been a very bloody and horrible one. And I mean, we can't talk about anything else at the top other than this murder in Minneapolis of Renee Nicole Good, who was killed by ICE. And we could talk a little bit about the larger aspects of this. But Ryan, I just want to ask kind of like your reaction here and ask you, like, this feels like it might be a kind of a turning point, specifically on ICE and this kind of violence. But I'm curious your thoughts here.
Yeah, I think this could be a turning point. We'll see. You know, we're always looking for turning points, and maybe it just slows the descent rather than actually turns anything. But even Trump turned on this one. Did you notice this? Like, so he came out with his just absolutely insane Truth Social post where he's like, this, terrorist, hit this officer. We almost pray for him. And it's, he's lucky to be alive. And then the New York Times later, they're in the Oval Office interviewing him and they show him the video of what happened. And then they describe his reaction. He's like, that doesn't look good at all. I hate to see that. I don't like that at all. So it seems like he hadn't even seen the video when he put out that absolutely slanderous statement attacking this woman who had just been killed by an agent of the state. And then, but even when he saw it, he's like, "Ooh, yeah, that's bad." But I don't know.
I mean, and fair enough. I mean, there's been just a kind of a parade of horrors. But there's something that's just so visceral about this. I mean, I'm sure many people have seen that photograph that was kind of taken of just a car and the glove compartment just being filled with stuffed animals. I mean, this was somebody, not that anybody deserves to be killed by the state, but this is somebody who's just such a sympathetic victim of this kind of, I mean, just frankly, barbarism, right? This is, I mean, I was talking to my mother about this recently and just trying to explain, it's like, we're still trying to piece together like the facts of the story, whether or not she had been a part of the protest or if she had there's some reports that maybe she had just been dropping her kids off at school. The fact of the matter is, like, these kind of things are going to happen when you're putting people in danger by having these kind of operations in residential neighborhoods. But go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, and even if she's a protester, obviously there's no reason to end her life. We have a First Amendment. The people that ought to be justifying what they're doing are the government. Like, and that's been a right-wing idea, like, for 200 years. Like, the idea that we have to say that to them. Like, we sound like Alex Jones out here. Like, we don't want armed, masked federal agents gunning down American citizens in the streets. Like, we don't want that. But it turns out it doesn't appear that was the case. what the reporting is piecing together, she dropped her kid off at school, her 6-year-old son, who now is an orphan because the boy's father had previously died. And then she and her wife were driving home, and they saw this like going on in the street, which it turns out one of the ICE agents like got their car stuck in the snow, which precipitated like there being like a bunch of things going on. It's like, this is Minnesota. Like, the police in towns in Minnesota are supposed to be helping people get out of the snow. Like, they're the ones that are supposed to be the best at this. Like, that you're getting your car stuck in the snow in Minnesota is amateurish and embarrassing. And so it causes this like traffic situation. And then her wife once got out of the car and wanted to protest and monitor the situation. And she then later was like, oh my God, this is all my fault. I'm the one who, because that's what you do when a loved one of yours dies. You think about, what you did. Like if we hadn't been there, then this wouldn't have happened, or that's just a very human reaction. So she had been the one that wanted to protest, and so her first ex-husband, who is still alive, he has given some interviews, and he said, she's not an activist. Like, this is shocking that she would be at a protest. Like, she's a good person. She believes in good, right and wrong, but she's not somebody who like goes to protests. Like, that's the kind of person, and that's not her. But her wife wanted to like stand up for the community on their way home from school. And so with that in mind, like, now the she's surrounded by these armed men. Like, she wasn't planning, she's not trained to be a protest observer or anything. She's never been to one of these things. She's just there, and she's at a place that is only created by their own amateurness and their insistence on chasing this like right-wing YouTuber who's like telling everybody they need to go, telling the feds they need to go to Minneapolis. So there she is. And then you've got one officer who ends up killing her, who's like walking around her car. She waves past these other ICE agents. Somebody else then kind of cuts her off. She's trying to leave. And then this other ICE vehicle flies up on her. 2 guys get up. One of them tells her to get out of here. The other tells her to get out of the car. And then the other comes in the front of her vehicle, which is absolutely against training. Like, you do not, it's also
for obvious reason,
Don't get in front of somebody's vehicle. You stand to the side of the vehicle. And so she's getting these contradictory things yelled at her in this chaotic situation that she didn't intend to be in the first place. And so then she backs up and starts to go to the right, and then he pulls his gun out, kills her, and in his left hand, did you notice this? You can see a phone. Like, what degenerate society are we that these supposedly trained officers are treating this like a tourist romp? Like, put your phone away. Like, what are you doing? If you have a body cam and you want, then good. But like, this is not a joke. Why do you have your phone out? And in another image, it wasn't just scrolling, which would be utterly ridiculous in its own right, but the camera's on. Like, I don't know if he's filming or not, but because you can tell, when you see the phone, you can see the image behind it is reflected in the camera itself. So he's out. What are you doing? And okay, so we find out that 6 months ago he was dragged. Did you see this?
No, tell me about this.
So his name's John Ross, this ICE agent. And 6 months ago he was a part of a crew that was trying to arrest a Mexican citizen. And the guy wouldn't open the car. And so this guy, and I don't know where the training comes from to do this either, by the way, he punches through the back window, breaks the window, and then reaches around to try to unlock the door. And shockingly, like, this leads to a calamity. The migrant guns it. And so then this guy gets dragged for like 300 feet or something. and gets a massive gash in his arm that required like almost 36 stitches. Cause like you smash a window and put your arm through it and the car moves, like that's gonna, he's lucky he didn't like sever an artery or something. And so that was no doubt traumatizing. I think it was a mistake for him to punch through the window. Like there's other ways to handle these situations. Like you don't have to go to that level. But nevertheless, J.D. Vance and others have been pointing to this to justify him killing this mother. That he's skittish, like he's traumatized.
Which just to note, like is totally disgusting. When something that is I don't know. This woman is having her car surrounded by a bunch of like frightening armed men who are like doing raids in her community. And by the way, is not somebody who the U.S. government has spent money training in how to deal with like high stress situations.
Right.
And she reacted like most people would. She acted very naturally. I need to get out of this situation. Right. The person who was acting unnaturally in that was this ICE agent who shot and killed the defenseless woman.
Yeah. Yes. And also like, not that this even needs to be said, if he thought the vehicle was coming at him, which it wasn't, it's steered the other way, and even if it kind of clips him, like it's going from 0 to 3 on ice, like you're gonna be okay. Like you're not, your life is not in danger. But even if you think your life is in danger, shooting the driver of a vehicle does not stop the vehicle, which is one of the reasons they tell you not to do that as a police officer. In fact, often what happens is the person's foot hits the accelerator, which is what happened in this case. Her fatally wounded, her foot hit the accelerator, and then she veered off into another car. And people are lucky that there wasn't anybody, that her vehicle pinned against that other car. But so you don't shoot at a moving vehicle. You don't shoot at a fleeing person. But none of that should have mattered because no American citizen needs to flee from ICE. ICE has no authority over American citizens. Leave her alone. Like that, she's not your business.
Well, I mean, I think this is the thing that is so kind of striking and horrifying about this case is, I mean, the fact that it's ended in a death, but also the kind of closing ranks, that we've gone from the federal government and the Trump administration and Republicans in general around this. Because it is just abundantly clear at this point that this person acted in the wrong. Their training failed. They made a mistake. But instead of, just saying like, hey, we're going to investigate, we'll do this, we'll do that. It was immediately, slandering this woman. And let's also not forget what happened on the ground there too. As I'm sure you know, Ryan, and most of our audience knows at this point. I mean, she was sitting in her car dying, and they would not allow a physician to see her. Other reports came out that they didn't even take her out on a stretcher. They kind of just drug her out of the vehicle. I mean, this was somebody who was killed, and then her dead body was desecrated, right? And was just not respected by these same kind of people. I mean, it's just on every level, this is so offensive. And the fact that the government, instead of wanting to maybe distance themselves from this or add some kind of level of deniability, has straight up embraced an absolutely reactionary fairy tale of like some dangerous domestic terrorist who was attacking ICE agents. Instead of what it was a scared mother who had just dropped her child off from school.
That really is the second order terrifying fallout from this is, there's this video of these 2 ICE agents who are like joking around and being with like the woman's crashed car, like right behind them, like cheering each other on. And then to see Trump, J.D. Vance, and everyone on down, except for Tom Homan, only Tom Homan, the voice of reason, only one who was like, let's let the investigation play out. All of the rest of them being like, no, this was a domestic terrorist. What investigation did you carry out to declare this woman a domestic terrorist? Everyone from the president on down, instantly defending this guy, has been very difficult to watch.
Yeah, I mean,
one thing is if this happens, and then you prosecute the person, and a jury of our peers like decides the facts, but whew.
Look, I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm recording this, my hometown of Austin, where we had somebody drive their car into a Black Lives Matter protest was found guilty by a jury of their peers, and our governor let them go. And it has been something.
Them? Oh yeah, I've heard about.
He pardoned him, Daniel Perry. Is one of these things from Texas to these other states where like we have been hearing for years about how like, hey, if you're in the road, vehicles have every right to kind of run folks over.
The same thing in Florida. Yeah.
And I think at a certain point we can just kind of call it what it is that they're going to kind of defend people, on their side and excuse any kind of violence. Matt, if we could, let's get to some of these, responses here. Cause I think this from AOC was pretty interesting and pretty strong. Because, I don't think that this is going to be so easy for them to sweep under the rug. And I think that for figures like AOC, it's going to be very important, to be very, very strong and clear about this, because I think, this is just my editorializing, but I think that like the American people really see through this. Matt, can we put this up here?
Prosecuted. What we saw today was a criminal murder a woman and shoot her in the head. While she was trying to escape and flee for her life. And I think what we saw today was a manifestation of every American's worst nightmare, which is their government turning into a tyranny.
Do you believe he should be arrested, the officer involved?
I think what we saw was a murder today, and I think that we need, of course.
You said that she was fleeing.
Ryan, I'm curious if you have any thoughts there, and just in general, the kind of response that we've gotten from elected Democrats.
That was good. I don't, and yes, to your point about how Republicans won't be able to sweep this under the rug, to me it's disturbing that they kind of want to own this. Yeah, like because they had another choice. We regret this. We're going to let the investigation play out. We're not going to jump to any conclusions. And then you could have Democrats say, "What do you mean let the investigation play out? It looked like cold-blooded murder." Like we've seen the video, and then you can have that back and forth if you want. But they have decided to own it. Mm-hmm. Like Vance said something along the lines of, "We should be thankful to this officer." That is a choice. So I do think that Democrats need to own the opposite, and it's good to see AOC, calling it for what it is.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious if you noticed this, by the way, and Matt, we have this other Plattner that I want to play as well right after this. I have noticed that a few folks in the kind of progressive circle have been using the term dismantle ICE instead of abolish, which is kind of has been interesting. But I think that I think that this has made something absolutely abundantly clear that like the left has been saying, or at least like the progressive left has been saying for a long time, is that like there is no need for ICE, and especially this version of ICE, of ICE that is masked, that has impunity, that is killing people, that is arresting grandmothers. I do think that this could be a kind of political turning point if there is kind of strong will from politicians and also from kind of political movements to make it into a major national issue, because it really this goes beyond just like because the Democrats lost on immigration for a very long time, and this is one of those things where like it's not even a question so much about immigration, it's about like what rights should we have in a free society, what rights should we have in a democracy. Mm-hmm. And I think that when we allow people running around with masks and guns to be killing people in the streets, I mean we've lost those rights fundamentally.
Yeah, during the whole abolish ICE argument, I remember thinking like this is not just a provocative slogan. Like this is a policy goal that is smart. Like this is a rogue agency that is a cancer inside the federal government and needs to be treated. And dismantle is fine. Like there are authorities that ICE has that the federal government is going to want to continue. And so you distribute those authorities to agencies that operate in a civil way under the laws of the federal government and that are not a rogue agency. I'm old enough that I remember when ICE was created. Like this is not this is not a Jeffersonian institution.
No, it's not.
This was post 9/11 when they were like, we're not sharing enough information. That's why the terrorists were able to get through. They combined a bunch of things into a Department of Homeland Security, and within that, they created this ICE agency, and it hasn't worked. Like DHS, like shockingly, like this federal government reorganization didn't actually make it any more efficient. You could argue to dismantle the whole thing and go back to the way it was before, but actually, like, beef up what you want and get rid of what you don't want. But in any event, what you don't want is ICE. Like, these guys are completely out of control. This was clear. If you remember when AOC, I mean, this has been clear for a very long time, but if you remember in 2019, I think it was AOC, maybe Rashida Tlaib, I think Ilhan Omar, maybe Pramila Jayapal, I can't remember the whole entire group. They went to Texas, to the border, and held a press conference down there. Right before that, we had reported on this, and ProPublica did as well, on this Facebook group of hundreds, if not thousands, of ICE agents, including very top-ranking officials, making violent, sexualized threats against AOC and others. Remember those? And all these images, and like, it's basically public. Like, you had to be led into the Facebook group, but it's a massive group. It was clearly an out-of-control rogue agency at that point. And now, like, that was before the radicalizing period that we've had since then. So I'm actually curious from your perspective and how your audience is thinking about this now. I feel like Democrats are ripe for some type of a bargain where they're like, okay, yeah, like, Biden did screw up on the border. Like, we do want a slightly more organized immigration system than we had, but we need to dismantle ICE.
I mean, I'll tell you, somebody who I think has been able to do this well, and I'm just talking politics, balls, and strikes here, has been somebody like James Tallarico. He did that Jubilee video where he was up against 20 people. And, in it, he's able to kind of criticize Joe Biden, and then also say that, like, he doesn't have the baggage because he's not, he's a state level, he's elected legislative official here in Texas, not on the national level. So he's able to put distance and then kind of talk about, his vision, about immigration. And I think that, somebody also, like Plattner is somebody who's able to speak about this pretty clearly, where he doesn't have the baggage too of, like, surrounding himself with Biden, but can also speak very humanistically about what we shouldn't be doing as a country, which is what we're seeing right now. So I mean, I think that in a way, the right and their kind of addiction to just chaos and blood and violence like this have really, given a huge opportunity, I think, to Democrats to be able to kind of, if not win, at least severely weaken this kind of hardline position that has been so successful for the right.
And do you think the Democratic base would be okay with that, with a Tallarico-like position where they're like, no, okay, yeah, we gotta have a little bit more security at the border, like, because Trump, that was Democratic position in the past, but then Trump kind of radicalized everybody around the issue of the wall. Like, once he wanted to build a wall, then the humane thing was to be on as far away from that position as you could be, because that was just, it was his classic insane over the top response to it. So I don't know what, like, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Democratic, party voters are just like likely Democrat voters. I think that, I don't think that, for example, like, no borderless like societies was ever a very popular position necessarily with like the Democratic Party voters. That was something that the right always kind of put forward. I think that's something that, like, is very much grounded in like the kind of like humanity of everyday folks. We'll go a long way, because again, like, people don't want to see, grandma, their neighbor, get kind of picked up by these freaks. But people do want to have some kind of sense that, like, okay, there's like a system. And again, Tallarico, I'm not like a massive Tallarico fan, but I think that he's done a decent job at least like staking out a position, which I think was one of the things that the worst part of the Democrats recently was that they kind of had like a non-position. It was very squishy, which allowed the right to kind of define it. And, he takes a pretty strong position of saying that, like, until we deal with, entry, until we deal with like actually creating like a line that is functional and works for people.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You know, the question about entry is important, but it will never be solved.
That's true.
This.
Also,
yeah. But before we let you go, Ryan, because I know this is like a big news week, I did want to bring you on initially to talk about this Venezuela stuff. And at this point, I think most people, we know what happened. We know about this event. I will always remind people that it was not just some kind of operation where they just went in through the window and grabbed this guy in the middle of the night. People died. Right. This was a violent operation. But I'm curious, as you're kind of watching this on the political level, what the hell is going on here? Is this Trump just kind of being a complete nihilist and saying like, okay, like we might be out of power very soon. This is a time to kind of do as much as we can. I mean, how are you even kind of contemplating this kind of insane major global event?
The rise of Marco Rubio can't be disentangled from this. Like any other Secretary of State, you probably maybe unless it's Ted Cruz, maybe, but I don't even think Ted Cruz, because like even though he has that same zeal, not being born and raised and living in that soup, that cauldron of South Florida, Rubio's been basted in that his whole life. Any other Secretary of State, we probably don't get this, because it's crazy. Like like a year ago, if you're like this, they're going to like amass an armada outside of Venezuela and then send in like a massive like bombing campaign and then swoop in with Delta Force and like come out with him and his wife, like that. Like,
well,
what?
I mean, it's tough. And then, we're looking at, and like, this is something that can move really, really quickly, as we know now. But it's not like they kind of like toppled the government necessarily. I mean, they took the head of state, which is a big deal, obviously. But this was somebody who was willing to negotiate. I mean, all the things that Trump is trying to say that like, oh, we've got these as kind of concessions from the new leadership in Venezuela. I mean, these were all things that were on the table for Maduro. I mean, this is the aspect of it that does kind of make it like very personal and almost like a psychoanalytic question as to what it was. Is like they wanted to see this guy in chain brought into the United States, more than even the like we're going to get the oil kind of thing.
For sure. Yeah. They want Raul Castro. They can't get Fidel. They want Raul. It's an old grievance. Yes. So there's that, and then there's the U.S. We at DropSite we launched fairly recently a Latin America desk that's kind of mirroring our approach to the Middle East, where we'll have editors and reporters, but working with a lot of people on the ground in the different countries where the U.S. is active. And we built that because you could see that as the U.S. is like backing off of being this global policeman, they were going to start swinging that billy club a little bit swifter, kind of closer to home. And what might be good for countries further away from us is going to mean a lot more attention for countries closer to us. Whether that's his intervention in the Argentinian election, bribing and bullying Argentinian voters into reelecting Malay's party, Honduras, like he got involved in the Honduran election, seems to have effectively played a role in that, actually. And then you've got Chile swinging right wing in the most recent election. This like Pinochet acolyte is now like the first Pinochet like acolyte back in power in Chile since the dictatorship. And they're feeling it, and they want to wipe out, I think, Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua, and just the last vestiges of that kind of leftist surge from the 50s, 60s.
But again, Ryan, I mean, I guess like my kind of question here is like the desire is one thing, like the decision to kind of pursue this is what just seems, absolutely wild. And like maybe I'm just like a total soy boy leftist, and I just don't get what's going on in these great men of history's minds. But it really I don't see that this is something that's particularly popular, except for like a very specific group of folks. You can make some arguments maybe on the margins that might help them in future elections, but like I actually don't even think that it's as deep as that. And I think that that's another thing that we're getting into here, both with what happened in Minneapolis and this, is that like, I don't know. I mean, this really is a kind of full on rogue administration at this point. And like, there's some people whose, palms are trying to grease and things that they're trying to do. But as terms as like a kind of strategy, it's hard to really gather what the end goal is here is, other than, vandalizing, creating chaos, and getting some of the kind of personal psychological wins for some of the people very close to him.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, the South Florida crowd is not even that happy about this. Actually, here, it's really weird because it's not a regime change; it was a president change. Yep. The regime is still in place, and so here's what we'll see how the details of this oil deal that he's working out with PDVSA end up looking. But usually when we go into another country and we're going to steal their resources, we come in with our flag flying and talk about all the good things that we're going to altruistically bring them, democracy and human rights and all and then underneath it, we're actually going to extract a bunch of resources or we're doing some positioning, or we're protecting shipping routes, whatever it is we're doing. In this case, he's like, we're coming in for the oil. We're stealing the oil. We're taking the oil. We're taking the oil. But then if you go a layer down, it's not that simple. Because of our sanctions, the storage capacity of Venezuela is maxed out, and they're still refining oil and pumping it and shipping it. The pipes are like going to burst. Like, it's a genuine engineering crisis that we have engineered by not allowing this oil out. And the oil's not being let out because we stripped this license at the request of the South Florida members of Congress. And the license was allowing the sale, and then some of the money would go back to paying the debts of the Venezuelan oil companies. So like, that's kind of taking the money. Like a lot of the debt payments are going to basically us. So now he's saying, I'm not going to give you your license back. We're just going to take your oil. So PDVSA is glad it's getting taken out of storage. They need it out. We are going to sell it at a market rate. That's actually better than they were able to sell before because of the sanctions. And then we're going to pay the, creditors and debt, and we're going to make sure that the money goes to the benefit of the American people and the Venezuelan people. And as a lot of analysts have pointed out, like, this is actually looking basically like the licensing deal that they had already, that he stripped at the behest of the South Florida Republicans. Now he's bringing it back, but saying he's doing it in a bad, mean, imperialist way, just to make the right happy. But it's like this, but it's a thing, but they don't, and they're not fooled, actually. Then that's why they're upset, because they want to be running. They want the right-wing Venezuelan diaspora in Miami to be running Venezuela, not the United States. And but I think that becomes a problem for them. Wait a minute. I thought we're in this together. Thought you, like, aren't we all, like, we're running Venezuela. Isn't that good? I thought aren't you part of we? But they're not part of we. They're a they. They have their own interests. And it's very hard for them to then articulate why the U.S. should pursue their interests rather than the U.S.'s own naked interests. Yeah.
No, I mean, and I think on top of all of that, don't forget that the price of oil is pretty low right now, and like the ability to be able
Trump is destroying. You're in Texas, so you see this.
But I mean, this is a weird thing too. I mean, our governor was talking about how great it is that the price of gasoline is so low at the pumps, which is just, as a Texan and somebody who follows politics, was just completely shocking to me. Like, this isn't supposed to be good. I mean, this is kind of the post-reality.
How many car dealerships are going to go bankrupt? How many like towns are like not going to be able to like fund their schools? Like, You guys are screwed with these oil prices.
We're big time screwed. We played on Left Reckoning. I don't know if you saw this, but somebody in the Texas Tech message boards was worried about how the oil crisis was going to harm their ability to pursue name, image, and likeness deals. Be able to recruit top talent to Texas Tech because of the low price. Well,
yeah, exactly. Like, where do you think? Yes, your boosters are not going to be boosting.
I mean, this is the thing about Trump. I think that some people counted him out too early when it came back. When he's coming back into politics, but these Trump coalitions are held together very, very loosely.
Yeah.
And we'll be seeing a lot of kind of chaos in the near future. I know we really appreciate your time. I do want to ask you one last thing, Ryan, because it is a funny wrinkle, which is that you and I, we've been in the same kind of worlds for a while. There's a lot of people who are very excited about Miss Tulsi Gabbard, who joined the Trump administration. And I don't know if you saw this reporting from Bloomberg, but basically she had been completely kept out of the Maduro operation. In fact, the aides at the White House said that D&I stands for do not invite for Miss Gabbard. I'm just curious, if you have any thoughts here, just because, there are a lot of people who said, like, Gabbard's in the administration. This means it's going to be anti-war and, new Dove Trump. And obviously that wasn't the case.
When I saw that reporting, it was the first moment in this particular crisis where I was like, "Oh, good for her!" like at least she's still untrustworthy inside the administration. Like it would almost be worse if they felt totally comfortable, like inviting her in and being like, "Hey, yeah," and she's like been vocally opposed to military intervention in Venezuela before. But that was BS. Let her in. It'll be fine. So at least they're cutting her out of it. But it's like, what are you doing? Like, what's your job? Like, and why are you like the whole point of compromising your principles in these situations is to be in the rooms so that you can try to make a bad thing less bad. Like, that's the argument that you get from everybody who works within the system. Rather than go to the mountains and be a revolutionary. And it's totally, I have no argument against that. It's like, it's the best you can do in like 99% of the circumstances. Doesn't mean you need to join the Trump administration, but setting that aside, if you're not even in the rooms, like, what are you doing?
From
but on the other hand, she's director of national intelligence.
Yeah,
it's got to be something.
She's got to do something. I mean, from what we've been seeing, I think she's been doing a little bit of both, and been enjoying the surf in Hawaii lately. So, instead of going to the mountains, go to the beach, and take the job in the Trump administration.
Right. Yes.
Ryan Grim, it is such a pleasure to have you here on the Jacobin Show. Really, really great speaking with you. People should all be subscribing to Drop Site if they aren't already. Anything else we should point folks to?
No, that's it. Start off your morning with breaking points, and then a little Left Reckoning later.
We got to start a cable news
through the day. We're going to keep you well informed.
Well, thanks again, Ron.
All right, you got it.
Man, always great having Ryan on the program.
I mean, and a great week for it too.
Yeah, no, seriously, I really appreciate him taking the time, and y'all should keep up with his work and Drop Site News. Really, I mean, indispensable, frankly. Matt and I were talking about how rare it is, frankly, for a lot of organizations to do actual journalism. So we do appreciate that immensely.
It's nice to see him get sort of run on all sides of the spectrum. I saw him on Tim Dillon's program, and like part of it is because Ryan's cool, but also like there's not a whole lot of people doing journalism anymore. And so it's great to see Drop
his
Site.
book on the Squad is frankly indispensable, and people can go listen to our interviews with him on Left Reckoning, though. Just pick up the book and read it. I always get a lot, even from things that I don't know, I've like lived through and experienced and participated in even. Ryan is a great chronicler of all of that. But look, I mean, let's get to this last segment here, Matt, before we go. Obviously, this week has just been filled with horrors. And we wanted to make sure that we covered those and talked about this on this program, while also making sure that we do cover something huge and tremendous, which happened last week, which was Zohran's inauguration as the mayor of New York City, right? Which is a culmination of serious work against all odds, and is a testament, I think, to the belief that, yes, a better world is possible out of all of this horror and terror. Also, I mean, I want to hear your perspective there being in New York, Matt. But for me, it was great seeing, Bernie and AOC and all of these people at the inauguration and this moment, getting its due. But, how has it been, so far for you in this first week of, Zohran as mayor?
I wish it was easier to focus on, what's going on here with all the, kidnapping foreign leaders and the assassinations in the street of citizens. But I mean, it is great. It is compared to where we were last year, where, Zohran was running his campaign that nobody, I mean, I'd be interested to see who in the press was saying he actually has a chance in January of last year. To see him and all of the work that the people showing up in Zohran or DSA t-shirts I saw all over the city for months and months and months, and to finally see it pay off, and very gratifyingly with the Kathy Hochul example, because there was when Zohran won in November, there was this tweet put out by Jeff Colton, a local reporter, editor-in-chief of a city and state in New York. And the tweet it was interesting to see, because it was the first time Hochul sort of bucked back at the success of Zohran, and Hochul steps up to speak. A few in the crowd chant, "Tax the rich," and Hochul says, "I hear you," she responds, "but, quote, I'm the type of person, the more you push me, the more I'm not going to do what you want." And I think a lot of people took her at her word on that, and wanted to basically credit that veto as if it was an insurmountable option. And I think it's important that we have something today, like apparently a joint announcement between Kathy Hochul and Zohran Mamdani for universal childcare.
I mean, this is messed up. I mean, yeah, we can start right here. I mean, this is already a huge win. It's getting reported differently in different places. In the New York Times, it's Hochul and Mamdani announced plan to make New York childcare universal, and it's massive. I mean, not just for New York City, by the way, but for the entire state of New York. Significant money going to help out to help out young children get that education, the universal childcare. It's also massive because it's on a kind of a tighter deadline. It's still going to take a few years to come into fruition, but this is first week of Zohran being the mayor of New York, and this was one of the major planks of his campaign. It's massive, and I think it shows that what has happened there and what this movement has already achieved, not that we're sitting pretty and thinking that we're done or anything like that, is going to have a lot of momentum to be able to strike quickly. And there's a lot of people like Hochul, who, Matt, you correctly were just noting, just a few months ago, was talking about like, I don't want to hear about this taxing the rich stuff, and is now wanting to try to get their name at the top of these Zohran proposals.
Yeah, here's this New York.gov press release. Mayor Mamdani and Governor Hochul to launch free child care for 2-year-olds in NYC. Governor announces investments to deliver universal child care for New York children under 5. And there they are, Zohran's beaming smile and Kathy Hochul there. And this is a testament to everybody who hit the pavement for Zohran, and everyone who's been doing the work to get like the DSA, city council folks in, and the state senators. Like, this is a result of people actually getting out there and doing this.
Well, let's get to some stuff, because I want to talk a little bit broadly about this, because it is really critical that we both are able to celebrate and also are very, very sober and clear about what we are up against. But I just want to start on just the style level. If we can play this clip here, Matt. I mean, the fact that this is one of the first things that Zohran does after becoming mayor. He has his inauguration, and is he going to Met balls, fancy dinners, any of this kind of stuff? No, he's getting straight to work, going to Brooklyn and looking after tenants. So we have this video here.
When did this happen?
I can't remember exactly the year.
The year?
It's more than years. Mayor Zohran Mamdani inspecting broken floor tiles in an apartment on Clarkson Avenue in Prospect Lefferts Gardens, getting a first-hand look at the deteriorating conditions, from an eroding bathtub surface to a rust-covered, corroded bathroom pipe and red paint splashed about.
And you told the landlord about this?
Yes.
And what was the response?
Call some numbers, but nobody want to do anything about it.
Residents in this same building and in others owned by the landlord Pinnacle Realty say they've experienced similar conditions, from leaking bathroom ceilings to moldy drywall. Tenant unions rallying in response, demanding stronger tenant protections.
Yeah, and I think that is exactly what working class politics looks like. The fact that these are some of the first things that you're doing. Hell, I would not want to be a landlord seeing, some building that I'm associated with, having the mayor come and visit and point out my failures. That is using the state, using the power of elected office, to help out everyday working class people. So this is massive, and we have a huge opportunity to continue to grow and build out of this. Now, we also have to be very clear what it is that we're up against. We talked about Hochul, and yeah, she does seem to be able to be moved on certain things. As capital and capitalists get more and more frustrated with Zohran, who is also limited, right? He doesn't have the power of taxation in the same way that like a governor would. There's a lot of limitations to municipal socialism in terms of what they're able to do just, with their authority. But the ability to kind of mobilize and put pressure on people in power, be they people with private power, landlords, or people with public power, folks like Hochul, is absolutely massive. But if we start to delude ourselves and think that just because this victory has been won, that we can just sit and pretty, we are going to be in for a rude awakening. We have to be very clear about where we are too as a left. I will just say, this is the Jacobin show, but y'all should pick up this most recent edition of Jacobin, because it really goes into some of the successes and some of the pitfalls of municipal socialism. And there's a great line in there by a piece by Bhaskar Shankar and Eric Blanc called "Politics is Something We Do," at least that's what it's called in print. Quote, "We are left with ballots cast, but few shop floors won, with more cultural importance than class power." Right. And that is just a clear and sober analysis. One of the big things that they get into in this new edition of Jacobin is the Milwaukee socialists and their social base. Right. And that's one of the things that's very critical, is understanding that this wasn't just the movements that was winning power in Milwaukee. These were movements that had a distinct social base. My own book that's coming out soon on Texas populists and socialists, they also had a social base for those movements. In Texas, that social base was tenant farmers, which was a form of production that absolutely dominated Texas at that time. And one pitfall that I think people get trapped in when they talk about bases, social bases, is they think about these things as almost like messaging categories, right? How do you talk to an Uber driver or a teacher, or in Texas, back in the 1910s, a tenant farmer? But when we're talking about social bases, we're talking about really going beyond that. To ask people to get involved in politics requires tremendous effort already, right? To get people to vote for your candidate. Convincing someone to cast a ballot is difficult, but it's a lot easier, frankly, than actually trying to get somebody to be energized on a daily basis, to be involved in a working class movement, right? That's union work, and that's what working class organizations do. And this is where we have to recognize our weakness, is that we do now have a kind of political left that is now able to wield power. And we have to ask, how can we utilize that, build out of that to actually build up working class power? Because while we may be able to kind of mobilize votes and things like that, socialist politics is predicated on the idea that working class people united can do incredible things, not just because they form an electoral majority, but because of their position in production, right? Their ability to go on strike, their ability to shut things down. And until we build up that kind of social political base of our movements, we are going to be on the back foot, because capital is going to be organized. There is going to be a backlash. So we need to be sober about where we are, be excited about what's going on, but also understand that we need to get out of this crisis that we are in on the left, where we have left politics, we have socialist politicians, but we still need a working class movement as like an agent on the political scene. And it's growing. These are encouraging signs, but that work is still very much ahead of us.
I think on the optimistic end, this is one of the predicates we've been wanting for a while, is what is even Zohran, when he was running for office, saying what's the big obstacle is people don't believe that actually politicians can do anything. And the truth is, in New York, Bill de Blasio, for all his faults, actually did something with the universal pre-K that I think led to a less alienation that may have helped this flourish in New York where it hasn't elsewhere. And Zohran, at least now we have an example that people can point to that, hey, you can join a socialist group wherever you are. And people are doing stuff for it. Seattle, the other end of the country, also has a socialist mayor. You can actually tap in and do things and get experience, and it can empower you to deliver for people. And I think, that's the thing, that the sort of ember that needs to be blown on right now.
100%. Our opponents want us to be weak and scared, but more than anything, they want us to be depressed, to kind of accept things as they are, believe that a better world isn't possible. And part of the duty, I think, of being a radical, being a socialist, is to fight and convince people that no, that is possible. And these kind of movements and these kind of successes are a huge part of it. So we'll be continuing to cover, Zohran will be continuing to cover the horrors that we're seeing from the Trump administration. Thanks everybody for tuning into the Jacobin Show this week. All the support means so much to us. Continue to like, share, and subscribe if you aren't already. Subscribe to the magazine. This is a must-read edition. And follow Matt and I on Left Reckoning if you haven't already. But have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you soon.